This is the CMO of Gaia-X, Orfano. This is our newest podcast series. Gaia-X is a newly aspiring, rising European association, and together with you, we can develop a new concept of data infrastructure ecosystem based on the values of openness, transparency, sovereignty, and interoperability. Join us today at Gaia-X and be part of this technological ecosystem. Hello. This is the Gaia-X podcast series. Today we have a very special guest with us, Leonard Dorlöchter, the co-founder from Peaq. Hello, Leonard. How are you?
Hi, Vasila. It's great to meet you. Yeah, I'm fantastic. Thank you. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much. I think that we really like the idea that you have availed your time for this podcast series. We're just a little bit new on the subject. So we love that you are patient with us and that you've taken up this opportunity. We'll try to help as much as we can. Leonard, I would like to take us and our audience through your experience a bit. Tell us how you came about to co-found Peaq. What was the vision? What is the mission? What do you even want to create and develop?
Yeah, so my background initially is in business informatics. So I was always very interested in new technology and the ability to use technology and yeah, make things better, improve the state of humanity. And it was back in 2016 when one of my co-founders actually introduced me to blockchain technology. Back then, that was through Ethereum, and this was really mind-blowing to me that you could run applications in a decentralized way on and you don't need like a central platform that is basically taking care of managing all of that. So I basically back then got introduced to the technology and jumped into the space, really worked on multiple projects early on in Berlin. There was an ecosystem evolving around it. And end of 2017, we were co-initiating Advanced Blockchain AG, which is a German publicly listed company which develops ventures in the blockchain space and is also investing. And the idea of Peaq was born under that umbrella. We're quite in touch with a few machine manufacturers and OEMs, and we just saw tremendous potential in using that technology for the field of IoT to enable machines to be able to transact with each other on a peer-to-peer basis without having to go through central intermediaries, and really saw it as the backbone of what we like to call the machine economy, or the economy of things that is emerging slowly but steadily. So, yeah.
If I can interrupt you for a while, because our audience is not necessarily clear of the association between Gaia-X and the Future Mobility MovID project, how the two are in fact connected to create something, and what is this that they're trying to create?
Yeah, so the MovID consortium is amazing, like the mobility domain as well, because I think the potential of Gaia-X within the field of mobility is extremely big. And what we are working on in MovID is actually to create a standard for self-sovereign identities and data sharing in the field of mobility. So to enable all kinds of vehicles and also people that are part of mobility to interact with each other in a decentralized and sovereign manner with the Gaia-X values at their core. And using blockchain technology is just like the perfect backbone to, first of all, create those self-sovereign identities. So vehicles can have an identity that is not, for example, powered by Google or another big identity digital platform. And the consortium is tasked with actually exactly working on that, and it fits perfectly to what we've worked on as Peaq before, because our vision is really to enable this decentralized machine economy, and vehicles and cars especially are the first smart mainstream machines that are actually on the streets, For example, they can deliver robo-taxi services, drive people around being paid for. Then they go to a charging station and pay the charging station for getting energy, or they pay a parking spot for being able to park there. So those are really amazing use cases for the machine economy, but also for Gaia-X and the Move ID consortium. And we're having the task there to really work on the best possible standardization and lay the foundation for a decentralized mobility data space to emerge in Europe and enable that all the stakeholders there can transact with each other without having to rely on central platforms.
Leonard, in order for Peaq to even exist, you're trying to bridge a gap, a challenge that you saw in the market and in the market demand. What is the exact problem, and how you're trying to fix, let's say, the current problem that you have and that you foresaw by creating a co-founded Peaq?
Yeah, so the problem we currently see is that the digital infrastructure as we know it today is very fragmented in a way. So there are of course, what we call Web 2, the second generation of the internet. It's working extremely well. It's very user friendly. There are big players like Facebook, Google, and so on who have created amazing services around it. But the price that everyone is paying for that is really that they have to give up the control over their data, that they always have to pay middlemen to actually be intermediaries and so on. And for example, one big problem, maybe to dive into one of the use cases we're working on, or we have been working on a lot, is that the charging infrastructure, as an example, as of today, if you have an electric vehicle, you need to sign up with many providers because they all have their closed databases where they have their users that are being registered. And then you need to sign up with each provider where you want to charge, which creates a very fragmented user experience. But if you would imagine that all of those charging stations and user exist on an open ecosystem like Gaia-X is evolving, then all of them will be able to see each other and be able to transact with each other peer-to-peer and not having to have like 10 to 15 user accounts. So this is like one of the examples that we really want to solve the fragmentation which is present in the digital infrastructure as of today. And we want to make it also much fairer, because as of today, the most efficient way is monopolies, right? You have like one massive platform which everyone uses. And then, of course, it works, but there's a lot of centralized power over data, over capital, and so on and so on. And like our goal is really to democratize this, enable people to own their data, but still have it functioning in the same way, because they are all registered in this open ecosystem where they can see each other, transact with each other in a digital way, and people are able to monetize their data and are able to actually participate also in the growth, because we can dive into this a little bit later. But you asked me about the vision of Peaq as well. Like the long-term vision is really, we see this machine economy emerging, and if this is owned by a few big companies that are basically controlling it and being the ones that profit the most from it, this is going to lead to a very problematic society, because humans are going to be less and less needed in order to produce goods and services so that society can function. And if then a few big companies own all the machines and everything around that and make all the money, people will be heavily dependent on governments to supply them with income and so on. So what we want to do is also we want to democratize the access to participate in the economic activity of that machine economy, enable it to be decentralized, so it doesn't need a few big players that are operating it, but it can be operated in a decentralized way. Everyone can participate, everyone can provide machines, and everyone can also build income streams from that economy. So this is really our long-term vision there. Yeah.
Leonard, you've spoken about specific elements of this data ecosystem that you're trying to enable through the next generation of vehicles. So you've talked about decentralizing the market. You also discussed about defragmentating the current status, but you've also talked about more or less the economy of things. So, how could we reflect this movement, and why do we actually need to prepare for it? If yes, why? And if not, why not? If you can take me through a little bit about that.
Yeah. So why we have to prepare for that movement to be emerging? Yeah. So to go back to the point what I just talked about before. It is happening, right? There's more and more automation coming. For example, Tesla's factories are like they're getting more and more automated. Very few humans are needed to produce the Tesla vehicles, right? And Elon Musk is even saying himself, "Well, we will need something like universal basic income because I can see how all of that automation is happening." So we really need to be aware that this is coming. There will be many jobs that are available today, not available in the future. And then, of course, people will find different jobs and work on different things. And that's amazing. But we need to think about also how is this going to be structured? How is this new economy being structured, right? And I think that's where it's very important to prepare and to think about, okay, what's the right technology and what's the right governance structure and the right setup to actually prepare for this future coming. And it's similar to what we see in the entire data space, right? We have those massive new companies that emerged over the last 20 years that control so much data and therefore have so much power and leverage. And it happened, but now we need to think about, okay, how can we make this better? Because this can't stay the status quo. And that's why we're extremely grateful that Gaia-X actually started as an initiative. And even though it's a massive challenge to bring so many companies together and build Gaia-X, I think it's so necessary because it's the right thing to do, right? It's yeah.
It sounds that you do have a common vision with Gaia-X, which is obviously the reason why you've joined in the first place. It also shows that as a company, even though it's a new company, you're eager to support the goal of developing common standards for a secure, connected, and open data infrastructure according to the EU values.
Yeah.
But concretely, where do you see the impact that Peaq can bring, and where do you see, let's say, the impact that Gaia-X can bring? And when the two are collaborating, which would in fact be the next outcome when we are talking about the integration of third-party smart infrastructures and the next generation of vehicles? Where do you see the actual impact when the two entities collaborate with each other?
Yeah, no, great question. And so to maybe start with the impact of Gaia-X overall, um, and the impact that I can see coming from that is really creating an open digital ecosystem where all parties and participants can interact and transact freely with each other in a sovereign way that will open up so many ways. Because when we look into the future and focusing on the mobility domain, when we see smart cities in the future, people traveling from A to B and so on, there's so many things involved, right, that need to be connected and be able to talk to each other and transact with each other. And right now this is like a very fragmented, like smart cities are just getting started. We have many different mobility providers. We have many different sensors measuring different things like what is the pollution in the city and so on. But all of those are existing really behind walled gardens in those closed databases. And opening up these things, enabling services to be built on top, having people being sovereign and so on, I think that will create so much potential, because right now each platform has to collect their own data as well. So no platform ever really has a good, great overview of the holistic ecosystem. And so that's why I think breaking up those silos and enabling people to own the data and just use different services that are run in a decentralized way will just enable us so much more efficient smart city of the future, as an example, much more efficient mobility, frictionless mobility. And this and then of course also provide users with much more value so that they can monetize their own data and not have the data going somewhere to Silicon Valley as an example. Because and then on Peaq, like we're working on building a decentralized backbone and infrastructure to actually enable those decentralized transactions and create those identities and build applications that can be run in a decentralized way. So and how both entities can collaborate and what will happen there. So I think Gaia-X is really an amazing political framework and setup. And we as a technology startup, we can really help with bringing that new innovative technology that is actually needed in order to make Gaia-X vision become reality and contribute and be one of those technologies that is running in the background as a backbone, facilitating those transactions and making that possible. Because we as Peaq, we're decentralized and we're decentralizing, so there's no central party as Peaq, which is basically a new middleman, but it's a decentralized ecosystem which everyone can use permissionless, and so it perfectly fits into what Gaia-X tries to achieve.
Leonard, I have a final question for you. You've been discussing through your current words the importance of the societal impact. It sounds that you do care about more incentives for people. However, we all know that currently we have an increasing demand of intelligent machines. Where do you see, how do you forecast, let's say, the future in terms of this, and how can we ameliorate, in a way, the need for more or less people, which of course will affect the employment of people against machines?
Yeah. So regarding the impact of more machines being basically used to actually fulfill a lot of jobs that are currently performed by humans, is that what you're referring to? Again, what the impact of this gonna be?
Yeah, the impact of what this would be, and whether you see it as an opportunity or a challenge for the economy
Mm.
overall. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, that's a great question, and one which I really like, because of course often we're thinking about this age of automation as kind of a dystopia where lots of jobs will be taken away through machines and automation. But I think it's also a huge opportunity, because if we're managing to structuring it and pulling it off correctly, then it would just enable humans to have much more time to actually work on things that they enjoy, and maybe work on things where they don't necessarily make money, but they can be creative and or right, like paint, to, do art and whatsoever. So and be busy in other ways. So I think it is a huge chance that we get into an age of more and more automation, so that people could do individual, more meaningful things that they like to do and have something to do, because it's very important that humans are busy, right? That we can't just sit around every day. So we need to do something, but not necessarily something where we earn money. And I think that the key element will be to find the right way to distribute actually the value that's being created by the machine economy to society in a very democratic and fair way, so that everyone can actually participate and earn from the successful machine economy, and not just a few big companies. So I think if we manage that this is done well, then it can be a really beautiful future where all of us maybe have to just work a couple of hours a day and then can do sports or whatever we like to do in our time. I see big potential there, but of course there are also great challenges ahead. There will be massive layoffs through automation, and then it's a question: how do we get to that beautiful version of the machine economy? There will be like a transition period, and that won't be easy, because the government will need to be able to have a lot of capital to deploy to people and so on. So we have great challenges ahead, but I see a nice future on the horizon there.
What would you say about innovative collaboration as part of how you operate currently at Peaq, and what you currently see from Gaia-X? Are we doing things the right way? Are we moving in the right direction? What would you propose as a newly made startup that sees things from a much fresher perspective?
Yeah, so first of all, like I said before, or we are very grateful that Gaia-X actually exists. It's very important, especially if you build decentralized ecosystems. You need a good framework to enable companies to collaborate and work together. And for example, in our consortia, which is led by Bosch, there are multiple other also startups from the blockchain space, with, for example, Ocean Protocol or Fetch AI. So we can really work nicely together and collaborate. And I think bringing expertise together and then like working on that and having the funding available within a bigger framework is a fantastic way of doing this, because this is nothing that can be built by one entity or two entities. It requires really that collaboration of many experts across domains, and like also bringing together expertise in one consortia, like we have it in mobility and blockchain. So while I see, but of course there are great challenges because it's very, very difficult to pull something like that off. There have been many challenges also in the process of actually setting up the consortia, getting the funding approved, and so on. And it wasn't very startup friendly, I have to say, because there are many bureaucratic steps, right, which make it very difficult for startups to join, because startups don't have so much are not necessarily profitable yet, and this is a problem when getting government funding. So I think one thing that definitely could and should be improved is the way these consortia can be funded and can be set up, because using the old traditional ways of doing it leads to a lot of startups and innovation being excluded from actually participating in Gaia-X. And then you have a lot of big companies who are able to secure all the grants, but that's not really where the innovation and disruption is happening, right? Like it's mostly young, innovative companies that are disrupting things. And as we see, like all the biggest companies in the world now were startups just 20 years ago. So this is really where it's coming from. And yeah, I think that's something Gaia-X could improve and should improve. Yeah.
Yes, I also feel the same because I actually come from the environment of the EU funded projects. I used to work in the environment, and I pretty much know how consortia is built, for which purpose, and how they get funding and why they're getting funded. And I absolutely agree with you that the necessary shift right now should be to engage further the startup companies as well as the SMEs, whereby this is where the actual ideas, fresh inputs are brought. And I equally believe that given the bureaucratic setup of the big companies, sometimes the decision making process lags, or sometimes, in fact, the decision making delays. So, what we are trying to build at Gaia-X, and I think that this is going to be of benefit to all our members, is a matchmaking tool that we are currently working, so that all our members will be able to create their own consortium on the basis of specific calls that we issue, and more than just the funding newsletters that we send. So, in other words, every member would have access to such calls, and we will try to initiate a collaboration between different members, either that come from, the business perspective or the technology perspective, whether they're small, they are medium, they are small and medium enterprises, which is extremely important for us as well. So I'm really glad that what we are actually trying to do will probably hit the targets of what you just mentioned.
Awesome. That's great to
So,
hear. Yeah. Mhm.
Leonard, if you would like to address your audience, let's put it this way, as to the main, let's say, keywords that would define, characterize Peaq and its association with Gaia-X, which would that be? I would, for instance, say that it enables security. The first thing that comes to mind is security. What would yours be?
Hmm. First thing that comes to mind, decentralization would come to my mind.
Decentralized.
Yeah.
Decentralization. And let's find the third one. So we have security, we have decentralization, we had democratization, we
Yeah.
talked about
And
defragmentation. What else?
we talked also about, yeah, and governance I would potentially add as well. Yeah. Because that this is like the blockchain technology in general could also be called a governance technology. Because this is what is enabled as well, right? And I think it goes perfectly hand in hand with the European values. Democratization and governance are really two things that go hand in hand together. Um, and yeah, I honestly believe that the Web3 technology, so the new decentralized internet, is really the perfect base layer technology for Gaia-X actually to emerge. And I'm very happy that we are able to really bring that technology to the consortium with many other great players, which I mentioned before. So I think that is a perfect stepping stone to really get this technology into action and show on a European level what it can do and what it can enable. And the Web3, it is coming anyway, and it is moving. I just think this is also Europe's chance to maybe make up for what Europe has missed in Web2, because we don't have those big hyperscalers, right? We don't have Amazon, AWS, and so on in Europe. We missed that, but we have now the chance to build a better decentralized internet with Gaia-X and that Web3 technology.
Thank you very much, Leonard. Ladies and gentlemen, we had today Leonard Dorlöchter from Peaq, the co-founder. Please do give our regards to the rest of the team. We wish you the best of success, and we would like to make sure that we have you again in our next podcast series so that you can let us know the latest, let's say, status and the progress made with the project and how we will be able to work together as one team. Thank you, Leonard.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having us. It was a great pleasure. And yeah, I'm looking forward to staying in touch and continuously updating on what is happening in MoveID. Yeah, exciting.
Thank you very much. This is the Gaia-X podcast series. Your host is Vasily Orfanou, the CMO of Gaia-X. We're looking forward to the next series with Peaq and other members, hubs, coordinators and collaborators that would like to scale this project in a common way. As we do, we thank you enough and looking forward to like us, share us, and follow us in the next podcast series. Thank you again.